Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Daily Footy. And what's going on?
I'm
Sean's back.
actually here. I'm actually here.
I think he's
Thank
here.
goodness.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Daily Footy and Other Sports with myself, Taz, and Sean. Firstly, I'd like to apologise to you all for what can only be described as an absolute hash up on our part, or maybe Sean's part, we don't know. As a result, you may have noticed that he's basically stuck a whole bunch of images in our last video. So please watch it and please try and make the best out of it if you can. But yeah, really massive apologies for it. I hope this one's worth the wait though. You may have caught at the end of the last video that we're doing a special video today. A lot of talk about the Hall of Fame coming up, and two names are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and we're just going to basically discuss who we feel we would pick if we had the
Which
power
Hall of
to.
Fame, by the way? Let's elaborate which Hall of Fame. There's so many different sporting brands that have their own Hall of Fame.
I said Premier League. I said it at the start.
And
Premier
I'm
League.
just,
There's
I'm so
there's
excited.
there's not gonna be a WWE one if they've got any brains. But yeah, a
Yes.
Premier League
So
one. But we also thought we'd take this opportunity to also have our version of the best Premier League team up to now, excluding current and active players. So if they're still playing, they're not actually eligible to be chosen for this. So, but what we'll do is we'll basically pick a number of players, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four, in a certain position, and Sean and I are going to basically discuss why we think they should be in the mix, and then we're going to ultimately decide who we feel should take that position in that team. And then what we're going to do at the end is we're going to use the 11 players that we've chosen, to pick who we believe should be our two players in the Hall of Fame. Right, where do we? Well, there's only one place to start. The goalie.
so I think I've been banned from selecting the whole Middlesbrough set of players because we haven't been in the Premiership for so long anyway. But that's a very good question right there. Which goalkeeper do you select? There's actually I'm going to suggest a goalkeeper. Being all serious now, while having spoken about Middlesbrough, he's not on our top two list, but Mark Schwarzer deserves a special mention. He was actually an extraordinary goalkeeper for us. Ironically, when he went to Fulham, we went down. So it shows how important the position of being a goalkeeper is. There's been lots of top goalkeepers, and there's been some keepers that just had their momentary impacts that have made them seen as legends. Like Jersey Dudek, not a great goalkeeper, has to be replaced by Reina, but his dancing for Milan against Milan has made him a decent keeper. So who did we select as again?
Well, I mean, so I should probably add for you all as well. What Sean and I have done is we've basically decided to pick one, maybe two players in each of these positions, and we will discuss each of those. So I've picked Peter Schmeichel. I'd like to also add that please don't be too offended if it seems like it's an Invincibles or treble, a Man United treble winning heavy team. But with the greatest respect, they were two exceptional seasons, so we have to really give them an awful lot of credit. And I think, and to be fair, a lot of these players have also spent a decent period of time in the Premier League to merit that on the basis of longevity as well. So yeah, my choice would be Peter Schmeichel. Without question. I mean, you can just see bits of him when you watch his son Casper. That starfish jumping motion that he seems to have. Exactly, yeah. And it gives me goosebumps when I see him goalkeeping like that, because it just like you just automatically think, well, his dad literally was doing that all the time. So he's my pick. What was yours? I think yours was an interesting one when we spoke about him.
So I would also like to apologize to the viewers that, like Taz, I think is it's quite important to look at teams for longevity. We've had some teams that had momentary impact, and I want to include Chelsea's under Jose Mourinho's first era. Although they had Cudicini, which was a very good goalkeeper, and unfortunately does not make our list, Peter Cech was exceptional. The amount of games he had clean sheets was staggering, and I believe, for me personally, he would make the list. And you could say he even survived his concussion, the situation with the Reading Hunt,
yeah.
When he unfortunately had that major incident, and it just shows his bravery, just like Schmeichel in one-on-one situations. And another goalkeeper that maybe because of England that we might put him at high regard that doesn't make our list as well as David James. Most consecutive games. I know he doesn't make it, but it shows.
When you said David, I had high hopes, and I didn't think you'd pick Calamity James. I'd say David Seaman at a push, not David James. I think we had to pick a 3 that they're very, very good candidates. Seaman, of course, was part of the Invincibles team. In terms of longevity, he was in the England setup a lot longer. And he had an annoying habit of saving penalties as well, didn't he? But I think that's a pretty solid 3. I can't really argue with that too much. And, quite nice that, 2 of them in similar generations, I guess, and a third one a little bit further down the line in Petr Cech. Well, right back. We had one that we were able to pick quite easily. I guess it's probably a giveaway who we've chosen in our 11 as well. And that was Gary Neville. We sat there trying to discuss right backs for a long time. And he was the only one that we basically said straight away. And then we tried moving on and we started listing a number of right backs. We were struggling. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, for me, Gary Neville was just a very, very easy pick, at least provisionally.
Yeah, so for a right back, it's quite... So we're thinking about players that have retired. As Gary Neville said himself, the role of a right back has evolved over time. However, Gary Neville, for his period, was arguably the most underrated player, part of Man United's legacy, because what they said about Gary Neville, if you're not talking about him, he's doing his job. That was his motto. And he always delivered and is always consistent, which is the basis of our conversation. And if you try to think about right backs that has been consistent for a longevity amount of time, you can't really think of a great deal of players. There's been some good players like Gael. Yeah. Gael Clichy, he was in consideration, but he was part of the young part of Arsenal, and then
he's also a left back, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a left
Yeah,
back.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I think that's for the other part of conversation. Sorry.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few considerations that we had. Lauren, part of the Invincibles, and obviously what Arsenal did that cannot be neglected. Another player who probably wasn't great for Chelsea consistently, but he had his moments. 2 players actually, Paulo Ferreira and Branislav Ivanovic, because Ivanovic was transitioned towards the right for a while. Slow, but he was pretty damn good. But we
stumbled across. We listed all of those, but we sort of ended up with
Lee Dixon. Another pundit.
Lee Dixon. Please give us your thoughts. While you're watching this, because we absolutely appreciate it. We're going to have our own opinions. We're going to see a certain number of games, and you might have seen certain games that maybe we missed, and we'll not all see a quality in a player that maybe we've missed. So please leave your comments. We'd love to see your lineup after we've done this. But I think the 2 we went for were Gary Neville and Lee Dixon.
That's interesting. So we're talking about. I'm trying to look at. I don't want to give any spoilers, but when you think about the other positions that we discussed, are they consistent with having as much pundits that have in their role? These players were perhaps so good to
Mhm.
observe the game, that they were able to evolve themselves after retirement to become pundits, to review games. That could be a credit to their ability and to the position itself.
I think it's purely coincidental. I mean, when you look at it properly, you've got players all over the pitch. Really, it's just sometimes how it happens. I mean, Lee Dixon's maybe been a pundit, but he's not the best pundit. I mean, most people rate Gary very highly. Uh, Rio's just tells it as it is. Um, Shearer tells it as it is. You've got Ian Wright as well, does the same sort of thing. But I just think not every pundit does it, and they are really scattered all over the place, really.
Mickey
So
Richards. Mickey Richards is actually.
it's a
I never
terrible,
didn't think
it's a
about him.
terrible pundit. He didn't. I
I
mean,
love him.
I know, but I just sort of saw him in one. Was it the Derby? And I just thought to myself, all right, Micah, please be completely unbiased here. Just tell it the way it is. And then the first things out of his mouth were literally bias, bias, bias.
Yeah.
But I get wanting your team to do well, but you obviously need to sort of be right down the middle, and that's what's good about Neville, and sometimes even Keane is actually quite biased actually. Gary Neville,
Very biased.
yeah,
My goodness.
Gary is very
Him.
very critical.
Yeah.
When United deserves a criticism, he's very critical about the side, and I think that's exactly what you've got to be when you're a pundit. You've got your allegiances, but you've got to try being as
Same
neutral as
thing with
possible.
Carragher. Same thing with Carragher. But sorry, I don't want to go on the tangent again. But let's continue if we can.
Yeah, well, we're trying not to. Okay, we'll move to back now. Now, we both had two names, but we could have had about three or four different names here. Um, we narrowed it down to two, but they are two fantastic players, and I think we agreed on who we'd pick as our left back, but and we won't tell you that yet, but we um, we struggled to get a short list. I think that's the best way of putting it. So one of the first players that we mentioned was Patrice Evra. Now, we had a choice between picking Patrice and Dennis Owen, for example. There were other left backs who are absolutely fantastic, but what we have to say as well, guys, is I know there are some cracking left backs out there like Andy Robertson, for example. Leighton Baines has actually had a very long career. We have to stress that they're all active players, so we can't pick them just yet. We might have a separate video, maybe just for active players or including them as well, but this one's all about a Hall of Fame and they have to be retired. So, yeah, Patrice Evra was one of them. I just felt out of him and Owen's fantastic as well, I just think the natural left-footed player really kind of suited that position a bit more. But it's an absolute credit to players like Owen and even Azpilicueta currently as well. That they were able to play on a side which is technically their wrong-footed side. And the other one was Ashley Cole. Now, he's not the most likable guy in the world, I think it's fair to say, but he was an absolutely outstanding footballer, and he was fantastic both for Arsenal and Chelsea.
And Galaxy. He actually assisted Zlatan Ibrahimovic on his debut when they had their turnaround.
LA Galaxy.
So yeah.
I know, but firstly, it's a Premier League one, and secondly, he probably was better in the Premier League sides than he was over there. And what is really, really a credit to him is the fact that he went to these two sides, two rivals, and actually put in quality performances for both sides. And that's one of the key reasons that he's even being considered for this. Obviously players like Evra had to play very well at Monaco before he got the move to United. So again, he's had to improve his career, but the time he spent at United was very, very fruitful, I think it's fair to say.
I think Cole is head and shoulders was the best left back. You have to, we were talking about
we're not giving it away just yet. What are you doing?
No, I know. I mean, we're talking about players, but you said Evra had to struggle and Cole was just there. let's not forget that he was part of two tremendous errors, ironically, the Arsenal Invincibles, and then when the Chelsea Mourinho period was getting more and more strong. He was part of those two eras. And, I would like to say, like, when I used to shave my hair, I used to have the nickname of Ashley Cole's twin. Not now anymore, obviously, but that's why another reason why I liked Ashley Cole. It
I
was
don't know
actually
what
used to be a
twin.
liner.
I don't know what twin you're referring to. Right. We're going to move on to, I think it's arguably one of the two, maybe three areas of the pitch where Sean and I just had to give you a long, long list because we had to discuss it in depth. It was going to be really hard to pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
As a centre back. So obviously, yeah, this is horrible. So obviously we have to pick two centre backs, and we just kept listing and listing and listing, and we've eventually got it down to 4, but we've got a few wild card suggestions in there as well. First and foremost, we've got John Terry, who of course is in backroom staff of Villa at the moment. Again, not the most likable guy in the world, but as a player, you knew he'd give absolutely everything for club and country. Who can forget that sort of that suicide dive that he did or something in the World Cup?
2010.
Was it 2010? Yeah. And they just and blocked the ball in the process. If you literally wanted to define putting your body on the line in a literal sense, he's done that as well. And who else did we have? We had to have two incredible United centre backs, and the reason Sean and I agreed on these two in particular was not because we felt that they were necessarily hands down the best two United centre backs ever, but they were for us the best partnership that we've ever seen in our lifetime, and that's Vidic and Ferdinand. You could argue that players like Jaap Stam, who were incredible as well, should be in the mix as well. And that guy was a beast. I've seen him in testimonial games, and he just basically just stands his ground, and people are still bouncing off him. He's still got. But those two, without question, are just think the best partnership. I mean, it's no coincidence that the run that we had around the 2008 to 2011 period, in particular, getting to 3 out of 4 Champions League finals, and a couple of titles in the process, and winning one of them, and having those two at centre back was no coincidence. But Sean mentioned.
I was going to say, also to elaborate on your point, Rio would always say, despite Ronaldo went for the glamour of going for his dream club, he always used to remind Ronaldo that you missed out on an era of so many trophies. And Real Madrid, that was going to be the case until Zidane came to Real Madrid. So it shows how much of an impact that those two had, in particular, of the backbone of such a multi-talented club, multi-talented first 11.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird that you've got two players standing right next to each other who are both held the armband, but who are both, without question, captains, whether they've got the armband or not. Vidic will put his head in the line, even if he comes away with a head bleed or something. And Rio just had a real calmness about him, and he was a good footballer as well. I think a lot of people seem to forget that defenders, there are some really good footballers among the defenders, and they don't just clear everything as well. But Shaw mentioned a very, very good centre back who's literally just retired. I think he's retired fully now, hasn't he? And that's Vincent Kompany. He's definitely one of the few recent player additions that we've got on our list. We threw in Sol Campbell. We threw in Tony Adams. A couple of players from the Invincibles again, but we just felt Terry, Kompany, Vidic, and Ferdinand. I mean, 2 of those We will decide. We will come to a decision on which two later on.
Ledley King as well. We also thought Ledley King because
You
if
did.
he never, yeah, if he never had any knee issues, he would have been by far the best player from the English game. And you know when we talk about,
I wouldn't have put him. I wouldn't have put him ahead of Terry and Ferdinand, if I'm honest. But what I will say is, it's the sad part is we can't say what if. We can't say what if you didn't have this injury. You know, for Luke Shaw, what if he didn't get that leg break in the
Champions
Netherlands?
League, yeah,
You know, he is starting to recover again, but he will never be the same again, I don't think. So I think when he was playing, yeah, I agree. He was very, very, very good. He had that short nature and short playing style. But we can't say, what if is not right. Certainly in this context, we're talking about the best of the best, and there's only
yeah.
one way you can do that, and it's proving it on the pitch and doing it over a long period of
Maybe
time.
how about Gianluca Festa? Joking. Middlesbrough great. Middlesbrough great.
Sean the comedian. Oh, is that who he plays for? Okay, cool. I forgot who it was. This next one, we had to. I'll go right midfield now. I've crossed out 3 players because totally forgot that. Well, some of them are just some of them are still active players. We had Ronaldo, and then Sean said, "Yeah, but he's still playing." I said, "Oh, for
He's a
goodness
beast.
sake."
What a
Yeah,
beast.
but we it's a really, really difficult one. This, we struggled, and we had Ronaldo. But we had to cross him out. We had Freddie Ljungberg. We had David Beckham in
Overmars?
there.
Yeah.
Overmars. The overly cool David Ginola. And this might have been one of the most awkwardly difficult ones to narrow down. We've currently got it down to Ginola and Ljungberg. I personally just thought Ljungberg was so fantastic when he was at Arsenal, certainly in the Invincibles year. And Ginola was just had so much about him, the flair and the skill he had. He just brought something so cool about the way he played football to the table. We've got those 2 names in there. Again, throw it out there. We'd love your opinion on who you would go as your right winger, but we stuck with Ginola and Ljungberg, and it's really going to be a difficult one. I know we're going to discuss this very, very shortly, but I'm not looking forward to that one.
I would like to say that Ljungberg was another reason why he was chosen is that he replaced Overmars, and Overmars went for a big fee at the time to go to Barcelona, and Arsenal were quite upset about that. And then to find another hidden gem after Wenger was becoming famous for finding these gem players is quite remarkable, and it deserves a lot of plaudits for him being able to find a player for so cheap but to deliver the goods for such a distant amount of time. He was even all right at West Ham as well, and that just shows how much of a good player he was. Wasn't he before he was Arsenal's caretaker manager? Was he a coach at West Ham for a bit? I believe maybe for a long time ago.
I don't believe so. No, I think even when you're coming in as a stand-in manager, more often than not, you're going back to a club that you've got a proper association with. And I know Arteta was part of the coaching staff with Man City, but he's probably got a bigger association with Arsenal and the other one, Everton, of course.
Yeah.
But so it's a bit of a surprise he didn't maybe go to Everton. But I think of the 2 clubs that he thought he could take further, probably Arsenal made the most sense. It's fair to say.
Was Haleb was a left-sided midfielder, not a right, because that's another name that just popped into my head.
I don't know why, but I'm thinking he's a central midfielder of sorts.
Yeah, he wasn't consistent enough to be in the list, but it's an interesting one.
I mean, we'll get to that, but given the type of players that we've listed in our midfield positions, and the ones we've had to ignore or not pick, I mean, I don't think Haleb was going to stand a chance.
Oh, he's active actually. My bad. Yeah, he is actually active. He was playing last season at least. Well, we don't know if it's categorized as last season, but he was in a Europa League game, I believe, against Chelsea. Alexander Hleb.
Yeah, no, you're right. I remember. I remember seeing that. And I said,
Yeah.
surely that's not him, is it? It's not
Yeah.
really. But okay, well, he wouldn't have been picked anyway. But if he was picked, then he would have been removed out of ineligibility.
Yeah.
Left side is.
You have to mention we have to neglect some players. We had some big names there.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, what the list we provide right now, for the first 11, and indeed for the 2 that we pick, that's going to be open to conversation. Not everybody's going to agree with it, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want your opinion, and of course, please leave your comment. Of course, don't forget to subscribe as well, guys.
Bale, I really wanted Bale. I loved that guy.
Well, yeah, we had the same issue again on the left hand side. I've gone with who I feel is my favorite footballer, certainly in the league sense, and that's Ryan Giggs. I don't even feel like I need to say too much about him. I mean, I think his CV speaks for itself. 13 titles, 2 Champions Leagues, loads of other trophies, domestic trophies as well. Incredible number of appearances. I'd love to say class act on and off the pitch, but he's made mistakes off the pitch. So, but he's an absolutely incredible player, certainly for the Premier League. And that was a very easy decision for us to make.
Yeah.
It was harder to make others because we had to sort of, again, say no to a few. And we both said Bale, and then we suddenly remembered, damn, he's ineligible. We can't pick him because I think he's made, we feel he just made an incredible impact in the Premier League as well. But he is still playing. He is still at Real Madrid, so we can't pick him at the moment.
The other guy is not bad, though. The other guy is, if it weren't for Giggs' longevity, he would definitely be a real contender and even take over Giggs for that position.
I think he'd be up there.
A World Cup winner, by the way. A World Cup winner, Euro 2000. That's a bit of spoiling about who we chose.
Don't give it away. Well, firstly, Euro 2000 was a European competition, and World Cup 98. But yes, he has slightly given it away. It's a French player, and we've gone with Robert Pires. It was, again, incredibly difficult decision to make, but like Ginola, he was such a flair player. It was an absolute pleasure to watch. Coincidentally, both are French. Fantastic.
Not good at penalties, though. Not always good at penalties. Remember him and Thierry Henry.
Well, I mean, I'd always pick a German if I had to pick a penalty taker, to be honest. But absolutely incredible player. So much skill, so much talent. Part of the Invincibles team, I think, wasn't he? So it wasn't too difficult to at least put him in the mix, I think.
There was a few contenders, so left and right, we thought of Robin and Damien Duff. So we thought of Robin and Damien Duff as possibilities, but Damien Duff, unfortunately, he wasn't there for too long at Chelsea. Robin was only there for a season, and maybe we glorify Duff's impact, like from that Barcelona game when they just blitzed Barcelona in that 4-2 victory. So, but there were some guys, Yeah,
I mean, there were other players as well.
Downing, Stuart Downing.
Well, I think it's fair to say with him, it was a short-term brilliance. I think and not even just with you guys. I mean, when he moved, where did he move to from you?
Villa and then Liverpool. Villa and Liverpool.
Okay, maybe you know what? I think he was best to Barrow, to be honest with you. I think maybe
he didn't do anything at Liverpool.
Villa he was pretty good at as well. I don't think Liverpool, no, not good at all. But yeah, he was. He had a brilliant left foot on him and good crosser as well. But I think when you've got someone like Giggs and Pires, pretty easy choice to put them ahead.
Well, if I try to take the heart out of my brain, I know we both discussed he's an attacking midfielder, so he didn't make our list. But I have to give him a special mention if he could play in the wings as well. he nearly helped us survive relegation when we had 3 points deducted in our mandatory season. The great Brazilian, everybody loves him, who no matter what club you support, Juninho.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I mean, there weren't too many sort of special or world class players, I'd say, with the greatest respect at Borough, but I absolutely loved him. I thought he had something about him, although he couldn't ever find a shirt that fit him. It was always like way too many sizes too big. But I thought he was a fantastic player as well. Yeah, you have kind of moved us across to the midfield, which is what we're going to focus on now. Now, this is arguably where the quality of players that we've had to choose from is just a vast array of players, really, isn't it? I mean, again, we've got two players that we've accidentally picked who are either both still active or one has only recently stopped being active. We'll start with those first. We stuck in Kante and then very quickly realised pick him. We picked Yaya Toure. I'm not sure if he's still playing or not.
The £1 million question. He said his agent said at the end of the possible last season, Siluk said that he retired, and then Yaya Toure the reason I'm referencing it is because Yaya Toure finally had said, for once, I'm going to talk to my agent about what he just said, and he suggested that he hasn't retired, and he's actually we consider him as retired, but I just remembered now. Yeah, he was actually linked. I was listening to the South American punditry, BBC Live, Radio 5, and Vickery said that he was actually linked to go to South America.
Right, okay. Well, if that's the case, then definitely not a former player then.
Could we put another guy instead of you state the midfielders, and I've got another midfielder.
Well, we've settled on 4, but we're not sitting here with, you know, huge confidence. I mean, this is another one where I'm not looking forward to this decision at all. We've picked 2 players first and foremost who in the same era were probably the best central midfielders, certainly English central midfielders that the Premier League's seen for a very long time, but they were terrible together in the international setup. I think everybody knows who it is already. That's Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard. They were both fantastic players. Both are doing some solid work as well as managers as well right now, but they just couldn't play together as in the England setup. And we will discuss this a little bit further. But do you from your perspective, when you're picking a best 11, would you want to pick a best 11 based on who you feel are the best 11 players that you could choose, or would you also want to take into consideration who'd be the best fit together as well?
So I can shorten our answer by referencing our previous podcast, in which we had a great analogy of Euro 2004, in which we spoke about Greece, who had what Greece did wasn't necessarily a team of stars or well-known names. They had a team that had players that worked for the cause of the team of 11 players in order to deliver for the greater good. However, the reason why Taz actually raises this point is that Lampard and Gerrard weren't just good players. They're probably the greatest central midfielders we've had, except for maybe Bobby Charlton and Scholes.
Certainly in this generation. Let's not go too far.
Okay, but we've got Peter Reid as well. But they were so talented that they were doing it for their clubs in the Champions League and domestically, and to even consider trying to take either player out would cause such a disruption. And it's interesting that we talk about this because even on Premier League tonight, Rio Ferdinand, Gerrard and Lampard actually had a discussion on why they weren't able to be compatible with each other. And they said, while it wasn't intentional, it's just the rivalry on the domestic scene and Champions League, it just caused players not to perhaps give it their all for each other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess that's your way of saying your decision on the team would be based on chemistry, rather than sheer quality of the team. Um,
But yes, but at the same time, we have the gift of time. Not everybody had that opportunity. Not everybody had the chance to say, okay, these guys aren't compatible, because that's unfair on Svenko and Ericsson.
I know, but
And
I'm asking you how you deal with it now. I mean, we've got the luxury of making that decision. So basically, if you're saying you would pick them based on chemistry, then that's automatically your way of
mm,
saying I may pick one of them, but I won't pick both of them together. Is that
yeah,
fair?
it's
Or would you
just
basically still be open to them both being picked?
based on evidence. You just got based on evidence. Sometimes players just do not work with each other. It's just, if you want to go a bit of a tangent, it's Man United. Di Maria, Falcao. We spoke about this a few
Mm,
podcasts ago. It's not just necessarily about the quality of the player. It's about how the players work with each other, the attitude, and it's the unity. And it's just Gerrard and Lampard at that particular moment never had the unity in order to perform within their confined roles for England. Maybe because they're such free playing midfielders. And that's why we had to draft in Hargreaves for a while.
yeah.
But they just didn't seem to be working well. And in our formation, it's a 4-4-2, so that's another reason why it doesn't work in their favour.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I think it conveniently brings us on to two other players, certainly from the past. But again, we've had some quality that we've had to sort of leave out, and it's just not nice. We picked Patrick Vieira, who was, you could argue, sort of the first Torre. You know, Torre was very much like a Vieira-esque player, tall, languid, um, kind of glides across the pitch. Pogba does that to an extent, but Pogba's been more inconsistent, I guess. And Paul Scholes, who, for his height, was just a quality player. His
Mm.
passing, tackling was very questionable. You know, his volleying was outstanding. But you know, he had so much to his game. Um, but that also sadly meant that, you know, we mentioned players like Roy Keane, you know, who obviously was Vieira's nemesis. Um,
Makelele, that's
Makelele,
just,
yeah, you were a fan of him. Yeah, you also mentioned Essien. I'm not sure whether I'd put
yes,
quite in the
that's what
mix
to put
same way,
SDN.
but I think you know, those four, that's a really really tough one. But we'll have to decide very shortly because
I,
we've only got the forwards left to pick from.
yeah, no, but I
So
would like to, I would like to elaborate on the SCN situation. Is that the reason why, probably why he would not make it is because he had a knee injury, and
yeah,
he just wasn't the same. It's similar to Wanyama, where he had an injury and then he had a good moment at Tottenham, had an injury, and just became no longer that strong,
bit part player.
strong guard. Yeah, and that's, although SCN did go to Real Madrid and help Mourinho win the title, it doesn't really show. It doesn't really show how much of a good, how much he was beforehand.
Well, that's
And
it. I mean, I think longevity is something that about 90-95% of the players that we've chosen um, in the lineup have basically demonstrated. I don't really know if there are very, very few of these players that we picked on the basis of them just sort of being quality on a short period. Well, maybe Ginola, but he did play for both Spurs and Newcastle, so there was an element of longevity there.
Villa as well, I believe, Aston Villa.
Yeah, Villa as well.
Yeah,
Bring a bit of
I got,
bring a bit of swaz to them. Well,
yeah.
but we need
You
to move.
know, just is it possible I can add in? I think we're both pundits. We both love football. I should ask you about the Gerard Lampard scenario with a question as well, if that's okay.
Hmm.
So everybody says Gerard was so loyal, which I always like to mention that he was actually off to Chelsea, and he actually said he was going to leave when you win the Champions League. Who does that? Anyway, the gangsters got their way, kept him. So if Mourinho actually was able to acquire Gerard, do you think Gerard and Lampard would then would have developed the chemistry and then be considered to be a pairing?
It's possible. I think that's a really good question. I think it's possible they may have worked, but no, it's but you have to, because they would have had more time to sort of fit together. But you've also got to appreciate that the international setup, you've also not got time to gel as much. So if you gel, you gel. But over the period of a tournament, you have the opportunity to do just that, and they never really truly did that. They were just two very, very good midfielders in the same team. So I'd say maybe not, but given the time that they might have had together, they might have done. Again, it's another one of those what if questions, really, isn't it?
You know that I remember the time during the Capello era at the 2010 World Cup. It took Sir Alex Ferguson, a proud Scotsman, to reveal a conversation he had with Rooney that the Chelsea and Liverpool players were at loggerheads with each other, with Carragher and Gerrard against Terry and Lampard. And that shows how much animosity there was within the squad, that Rooney, a Manchester United player, had to tell Ferguson, and he would reveal how bad it was at the boot camp at South Africa at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even a recent example of a scuffle that was Joe Gomez and Sterling had, wasn't it? Sterling, clearly big attitude himself. He was the one that was sort of left out of the England team in the process. So, yeah, that's a more recent version of it. But yeah, come on, we've got to get through some strikers first. This is another messy topic. I mean, you know, it's literally down the middle. I've just realised that's the biggest issues we've got: centre back, centre midfielders, strikers. We have got a list that we managed to get down to about 5, and it was at 6. It was at 6 because we had Aguero in there as well, but then we realised active player, and we had to cross him out because Aguero, without question, could, if not will, be that number 1 pick, maybe, when he retires. The goals he's scoring is ridiculous. He's the top international, top foreign striker. He's the top foreign goal scorer, full stop, isn't he, in the Premier League?
He took over Thierry Henry.
Exactly.
Took over Henry.
Who is another one of the players that we've who is one of the players that we've got on our list, as it happens. Stop giving it all away.
Not George Weah. He did mean George Weah. I was joking about George Weah. He was past his prime. Yeah,
I meant Henry. No, we also had Thierry Henry. I mean, what's to say? Well, I mean, again, another French player who's got so much quality, so much flair, you know, so much va-va-voom. Who, again, part of the Invincibles team, part of a World Cup and European Championship winning team, quality player, and right before Aguero surpassed him, was the highest, you know, the foreign player with the most goals in the Premier League as well. And of course, can't mention Henry without his good old Dutch teammate Dennis Bergkamp as well. Absolutely fantastic player. I mean, if you ask anyone to pick out a Bergkamp goal in the league, I'd like to meet the person that doesn't tell you it was the Newcastle goal, that he sort of did that crazy flick, that curled around the player, and then just calmly strokes it into the corner.
He did it at the World Cup as well, in '98 French World Cup. He did something very similar.
Sort of, but it was more he took it down against Argentina.
Yeah,
I think it was a 2000. Was it the '98 World Cup?
Yeah,
he took it down against Argentina, and then his first touch basically made him cut inside in the process, and then he scored opposite corner with the outside of his right foot. It was gorgeous. It was one of the best goals I've ever seen.
English hero. He became an English hero because we obviously hated Argentina for knocking us out. We always cry. We always cry.
Well, the Dutch, generally speaking, are pretty mellow people. I mean, there are a few aggressive people, but he was one of the really kind of cheerful, classy players, and he was just a really nice guy as well.
Well, speaking about Thierry Henry, we have to give this the moment he was his second last full season is the final season at Highbury. What he was doing single-handedly, helping Adebayo's development, Van Persie's development, what he did at Real Madrid, ran past the whole team. It was exceptional. But and then again, you can even argue that as good of a player, I'm going to even go back a bit further. Sorry about the tangent. He, although as good as he was, as soon as you lost Patrick Vieira, Arsenal just lost the stability, and this is why we chose Vieira for the midfield position. But anyway, Thierry Henry was so exceptional, and it makes you wonder how badly was Arsenal managed in the sense that they were offered £50 million, which was a transfer record at the time, to sell him. And then the following season, after spending a year at Emirates Stadium, which was a necessity, by the way, they sold him only for 16 million for the price tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Age in a slightly weaker season does that, unfortunately. Who else have we got? We've got Michael Owen, who you've mentioned.
I love him. This guy was the only English player to be nominated for the Ballon d'Or since Kevin Keegan. This shows, and this is including players like Scholes, like Gerrard, like Lampard. He was that good, and people always say that he flopped at Real Madrid. Look at the statistics: a goal every 1.5 games in terms of minutes. He was actually the top goal scorer until the last 5 games when he had to be replaced by Ronaldo. Actually made up the difference, and the Brazilian Ronaldo. And he always mentioned, he actually had that argument with Shearer recently, talking about why he should not be seen as the villain at Newcastle. And he always talked about maybe he didn't have the best attitude. However, he did also say if he actually was around now, he would have had access to better medical care in order for his knee surgeries to be done at a better scale. His hamstring injuries would have been dealt a lot better, and he could have arguably been able to be more consistent. Because since his first hamstring injury, he just never ever was able to recuperate. And it's important to mention that because we've got some very good fast players currently right now, even like Kylian Mbappe. And you can say that Owen, as much as people love Mbappe, Owen was not doing something too different to him. He was delivering at a team that was miles behind.
He wasn't the strongest of players, you know. I mean, you could easily push him off the ball. That's the thing. Mbappe's built a bit better as well.
He would score goals.
What I'll say against Owen is, you know, I think he was fantastic at Liverpool, but not really that great in any of the other English clubs. So I think I'm kind of giving away that, you know, he may not feature in our top 2, but I'm not telling you who it is.
I forget that he played for Hull City. I always forget that he only had 1 or 2 games. It's interesting.
Well, I think that sort of emphasizes just how good he played for Liverpool, because that was where he was fantastic, and then he really wasn't the same in any of the other clubs.
Took out Germany. Let's give him a bit of plaudits at Real. He just went for the wrong move to go to Newcastle. They were just a mid-table team. It's like a top player going to Everton now. A team with money, and just don't go for it.
Yeah. Well, let's. We got a couple more players to pick. Got from United again. That's a very hard decision. We had Rooney in the mix, but we thought best finisher. No, don't think so. We've settled on Ruud van Nistelrooy, who's just the clinical finishing that this guy had. You know, he didn't look like he was the quickest at all, but he just had a way of gliding past them. I don't know how. He just kept gliding away from people. So it's a really hard one because, I mean, you know, I've basically discarded the 4 Champions League winning strikers that we've had and United's top goal scorer as well. Really hard decision that. For a guy who I just I think you agreed as well. I mean, like we just felt like it was super clinical, just very very efficient with his finishing, and he was just unbelievable. The time he spent there, he really made it count.
And don't forget, Rooney actually plays, so that's another reason why we agreed. He actually played against you guys, right?
Yes. I think I was about to write it down earlier, and then you said he. That's when we started remembering. Oh no, he played.
Yeah.
And the final player is
Pavlyuchenko of Tottenham.
No, this guy needs absolutely no introduction. Really, it's Alan Shearer. I mean, yeah, ridiculous.
Not the Nazis.
His celebration sometimes looked like that. His goal scoring record for club was it's second to none because it's still higher than anyone else. His goal scoring for country still very good. Not the top, of course, but he was still very very good, very efficient, quality player, quality captain. And I really appreciate him as a pundit because he just says it as it is. He doesn't shy away from it. And it's nice to see when Newcastle do well, that sort of, we've done something right, look on his face. It's quite nice and refreshing to see. But what are your thoughts on
That's
Shearer?
actually a good point. I'm going to quickly go to Owen quickly saying, Owen scored more goals for England, but unfortunately doesn't make it. And that shows how good Shearer was. Shearer, he may have not scored as... Yeah. You can argue for Shearer's case compared to Owen is that he didn't have the same quality of team players around him. That's even argue. Yeah. That's despite Euro 96. I think everyone's got a different age group. We didn't make the 1992 Euros. We didn't make that, right? No, we didn't make it. And I think, or it might have been the 94. No, it was 92 Euros. Graham Taylor. And it's important to mention that because Euro 96 was coming, and it seemed to make a lot of people not just like football. It was such a pleasant time, and there's a lot of nostalgia around that period where, thanks to people like Shearer and a person that we can't, unfortunately didn't make the list, Sheringham, they had such a great chemistry. And Shearer, against Holland.
What's very easy to forget is Shearer may have truly flourished at Newcastle, but he is a Premier League winner, let's not forget, and he was part of a very kind of, I say special, but they were all brought in, weren't they? There weren't too many sort of players that Blackburn brought through the ranks. I don't know how many there were actually, but they were all just brought from different parts of the UK, created a quality side, and they won it in 1995, didn't they, in the process? But yeah,
him and Sutton are really good together.
They had Flitcroft and
So went from Chelsea, then back to Chelsea. Yeah. Ironically, Chelsea were the smaller team then. Chelsea was a smaller team.
Who was the Spurs? Tim Sherwood, of course. There we go.
Yeah.
I forgot someone. He was a cracking player. I like his honesty as well. Right, so we need to crack on because we've listed all our players. Now we need to pick our 11.
Oh, can we mention a special shout out to Les Ferdinand? Oh, that guy, and Andy Cole. As you're and Dwight York, a few guys. Robbie Fowler, Robbie Keane.
That's the thing. I mean, it was such a hard decision to sort of narrow it down because, some of the. All right, calm down.
Ravanelli celebration.
I know. My dad called him ravioli. Okay, right. Well, we need to.
Hasselbank.
We need to. Right, stop. We need to
Paducah.
We need to pick our 11 now. So, in goal, we had a choice between Schmeichel and Cech. My vote, Schmeichel. What are you going with?
Yeah. It was just
so
Man United.
You still think you'd still pick Cech over Schmeichel in the SPL team?
I probably got a problem with where my perception may be a bit different of the quality of clubs around the time. I always see that there were 3 genuine title contenders at that period, while when Schmeichel's best period was when he had 2, always had one really strong title rival in either Newcastle or Arsenal, where Liverpool weren't always a strong opponent. Well, Peter Cech's era, there's 4 very consistent, strong teams that would also regularly do well in the Champions League as well. And for Chelsea to remain top of the pile, domestically anyway, it shows how much the competition was. And the one benefit I would always say about Abramovich was that the players of the pre-Abramovich era or under the Ranieri era was able to go to other teams like Hasselbank and then to Middlesbrough. And because of that, it made teams more difficult to beat. And he was still able to stay on top. And it shows how good of a keeper he was. And he had the rivalry of Cudicini.
It's a difficult one. Right, we've already come up with a problem. That's a bad start. I really thought you'd say Schmeichel there, to be honest. All right, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that one. We'll come to.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that you didn't mention the one thing that probably gets away the favour for Schmeichel. Even if you forget about the Premiership, everyone talks about Kasper Schmeichel being the underdog. 1992 Denmark Euros, that was arguably as big because they even lost Michael Laudrup due to issues he had with the management team. They had Brian. I think Brian Laudrup still played, and we were both too young to actually acknowledge what happened. But to win that 92 Euros, it could play in his favour. Yeah.
But you basically just said something that tips it in his favour.
Yeah, because at the end of the day,
why have you not picked him then?
Because that's the love of the game. That's how I am with Taz. We will love to.
All right, we will leave them for the moment, and we will between us decide because we have to pick an 11. We can't pick 12. Right back.
You were about to say when you were trying to say in the position. You already said it yourself.
I was about to. Yeah. Right back. Name. Go for it.
Gary Neville.
Very easy. I agree. Left back.
Oh, we may disagree on this, but because of my past, if I should shave my hair again, Ashley Cole.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. No, I mean, look, Ashley Cole's got the longevity factor as well, and he also did it really well in 2 different teams. So I can't really disagree with that. I thought Evra was fantastic, but Cole's done it really well in 2 different teams, so I can't argue with that. We're going to struggle with the next one, I'm afraid. I think the easiest way of picking 2 centre backs.
I was going to quickly say for your defence, the reason why we're not talking about Serie A because Ashley Cole's famous for staying away from his Roma teammates, while Patrice Evra did very good for Juve.
Exactly. Right. With centre back, what we'll do, we can either pick 2 together if we could come to an agreement, or if we don't think we can agree, we'll pick 1 each. Fair?
Yeah.
If I had to pick 1, I'd go with Rio.
Yeah, do you know why you had to? I agree with that as well, because every other defender we've gone for is a hard man. In one way or the other, they're a hard man. They do have their ways of being a leader, but they're a hard man. Although Rio's a boxer and he's gone through so many life problems as he's documented as a celebrity, he was not that defender who would just go for the hard approach. And he was always that guy who needed that hard defender in order to have the license to roam forward and help break up teams. So I don't think you could go against that decision of having Rio. He's probably the VIP.
He's a quality footballer as well.
Yeah.
We may struggle with this one though. I mean, who would be your other centre back?
So you can put any of them. You can even draft in the others that we mentioned before, like Tony Adams and Martin Keown would probably be even a throwback. But although JT is a fantastic leader, and so Vidic has got the chemistry and is the logical answer, I'll just go for Vincent Kompany. I just love what he did. He transformed Man City from a mid-club team where they even then got Elano and Robinho into this mega team.
I'm very, very happy with that one as well, to be honest. Like I said, I mean, in terms of sort of on paper and even on the pitch, chemistry, Vidic and Ferdinand, incomparable. But I just think both Ferdinand and company were so calm and patient on the ball. Both were immense in the air as well. I think they'd have good chemistry as well. And they're both brilliant captains as well. Right back. Right wing. Sorry, right wing.
So you didn't give a spoiler like the Gary Neville situation.
Yeah, let's go back on ourselves. Right wing.
That's an interesting one. Lundberg or who did you know?
Ljungberg and Ginola.
That's a very tricky question. Lundberg had a bigger impact on the short term. Ginola, I think he was not at the biggest of clubs in order to display his potential. So I think Ginola had the longevity compared to Lundberg.
So who are you picking?
Ginola.
You're going for Ginola.
How about you? You could sway my decision really well.
It's horribly difficult. I mean, I think I loved Ljungberg as a player.
And we all hated Arsenal.
I'm happy with Ginola. I think that's something that's going to really kind of split opinion. I mean, people might even disagree with the two that we've narrowed it down to, but that's what we're all about. Left wing.
So we had Robert Pires or Giggsy. Let's just say this. Giggs at 39. I think, no, actually he was 40. Sir Alex Ferguson's final season against Real Madrid. The game where the referee made a calamity decision.
Against Nani.
Yeah. Giggs was on the right wing going past Marcelo, going past Di Maria when they were at their peak. A player at 40 was going around these players like they were nothing, and he was doing great crosses, and he was performing at such an exceptional level at that age of 40. It just shows so much that we're a sports show. We want to talk about sport. It's not everyone's business and necessarily talk about people's personal lives. This guy, what he was able to do is untouchable. We're talking about a player that started before the rest of the class of 92 and that ended after the rest of the class of 92.
Yeah, plus I think only in his final season, that was the only time since he started that he failed to score a goal. I don't think he scored in that final season, but he always scored a goal every single season. So I think unanimous there, Giggsy all the way.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Pires was good. Pires was actually really good. And
we're not disputing that. I mean, I just think it was hard to pick a second player. But he's brilliant. I think Pires as well. What about the two central midfielders? Should we go down the you pick one, I pick one route again?
Oh yeah. I was just going to quickly mention that Pires was actually really good at Villarreal, but he actually played.
Not as good as Forlan was.
Yeah. At Champions League, that's a good point. An ex-Arsenal and ex-Man United player playing together at Villarreal. A midfield one's going to be a good dilemma.
I'll let you go first.
Before we go first, do we combine Gerrard and Lampard? This is probably the first.
That's what I asked you earlier, and you never gave me a straight answer.
Okay, so
you have the choice now, or we both do have the choice of either just going the highest quality team that we can go for, or whether we need to take into consideration that whether they'd be a good fit as well.
Okay, so because of people like Gerrard on defensive guys are essential. I think for choosing a midfielder, you need a good defensive, solid midfielder and a good, solid attacking midfielder who needs to be able to be strict with their roles. This is why Gerrard and Lampard never worked. And for example, Middlesbrough were one of the first teams to beat Jose Mourinho's Chelsea when we had Boateng returning. So I want to look for a defensive midfielder selection, and it would, out of the choices we've had, it would have to be Patrick Vieira, because
100%.
he's strict. I would love to have SDN, love to have Yaya Toure. We don't know if he's around or not, but Vieira is strict in his role, in his duty, and he would ensure the other midfielder would be able to have the license to go further ahead. And
Yeah,
then there's the
I
question.
completely agree with that. And for me, I mean, I think in terms of, I'd have to pick the other player I'd pick personally is the one in the same era, and for me, it would have to be Scholesy. If you
Yeah,
gave me a choice between Gerrard, Lampard, and Scholes, or even Keane, I'd always pick Scholes and Keane over those two. They're both, because Lamps and Gerrard are quality players. I just felt the other two were on another level. So I'd actually go for Vieira and Scholes as my midfield. What about you? You agree with that?
yeah, and it's quite ironic that we were even contemplating the disaster it may be if not selected either.
We've not taken
And
the
I,
risk. That's what we've done.
yeah,
We got scared.
but
Okay. Well,
also you know that everyone, still a long debate. Why a lot of people say that Scholes was not as good as Gerrard and Lampard, and he didn't have the goal ratio of Lampard. He didn't have the all-round ability of Gerrard, but a lot of players, arguably
yeah.
even better than Zidane. Zidane said about one guy. I would look at the opposition, and when I saw Scholes, I was terrified. Well, that was an exact quote, but there's a
It's
quote.
probably because
Oh,
he
yeah.
knows Scholes he can't tackle properly. So if he comes charging towards you, you could come away with an injury. Right.
And
This
even
is
Zav,
another horrible,
one
horrible.
more thing that, sorry, but we have to mention this. Like, we're talking about Scholes, a great midfielder. A lot of a lot of Spanish midfielders, where we're talking about, we've lived through an era where midfielders like Xavi, Iniesta, Fabregas, they loved seeing creative midfielders. They all said that they used to watch Paul Scholes, and to have Xavi probably was the most underrated midfielder, or Iniesta as well. Them two, who should have won the Ballon d'Or. So for those
Oh,
two to say, yeah,
I don't think no. Where I disagree is I don't think they're underrated. I
yeah,
just think
I think they
very
are.
very no. I mean they weren't underrated. They were just very often. With these awards, a lot of them are farcical. A lot of them get farcical. Like when I said Messi wasn't even the best, he was lucky to be in the top five of his Argentinian colleagues in the
Mm.
2014 World Cup. I meant that. And in the same vein, you're absolutely right. Xavi and Iniesta should definitely have won it. They're quality players, and they have bettered some of the guys that have won it at times. And it's just the obsession and love of Ronaldo and Messi, who are brilliant. But we have to accept they've been on the decline now and again, and they've had bad seasons. But it's still all about those two. Um,
It's all about
so when you
goals. It's
see,
all
so when
about
you see a
goals.
so when you see a third player in the mix, like my vote went to Van Dijk recently, and I'm a United fan, but when you see somebody else in the mix with those two, it's almost like they're the winner, but they're not officially, but it's kind of like they are. So yeah,
So,
obsessions.
so, so those guys, we just had a nice another top off track. It wasn't actually off a tangent, because we're talking about quality midfielders that appreciated the input that Scholes has had, and this is why we had two Scholes.
Yeah, 100%. My God, we might disagree with this
Mhm.
up front. We might not actually.
I was quite straightforward. I've probably,
You got straightforward front two, have you? For me, yeah, that's my first one, obviously. For me, Shearer and Henri.
yeah, yeah, that's it.
Oh, that was easy. Okay, because
I
I
don't
was
know what happened.
I was going to contemplate Van Nistelrooy, but I just think Shearer and Henri's longevity as well completely um, outweighs what Van Nistelrooy gave, and I think the only player in the whole kind of list we gave in the strike force would have been someone like Aguero or Rooney in terms of longevity, and that would have been a juicy conversation to have. But I think it's pretty straightforward. Right.
Do you know?
One
Tell
more
you
thing to
something
clear. One more
interesting.
thing to clear up though, before we continue.
Oh,
We
okay,
need to decide. We need to pick it. No, we need to pick a goalie.
Um, okay. Let's try to think of some parameters. Is there a parameter we could suggest? I think okay, Schmeichel. Okay, let's do it like this. Peter Cech. Let's think of his weaker periods and look at Schmeichel's weaker periods. How good was Schmeichel at Aston Villa, and how good was Peter Cech at Arsenal? Could we use that as a parameter?
All I'd say is Schmeichel came to United at a peak age, whereas Czech started younger, if you see what I mean. So Schmeichel came to United at the right time in a goalkeeper's career. He spent a really good period of time there. And, frankly, if De Gea was to have retired, he'd be an annoying one in this conversation as well. Back to back, back to back, back to back, back to back, Player of the Year awards. And he's consistently been making Team of the Year even in the Premier League because, until the last season or so, it was sort of but who else do we put in? It's obvious it has to be him, right? So
Nigel Martin.
Nigel Martin. That's why I'm finding it really difficult to sway away from him.
But let's look at Man City. He was at Man City for a season, right?
Briefly, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, he went to all of these clubs on his decline. So he left United literally at the right time. He left. That's what I'm saying. Whereas Cech came at a young age, grew at Chelsea, and then went to Arsenal. Did pretty well. I wouldn't say he was outstanding in Arsenal, but yeah. So I think you need to judge them on their peak periods.
No, that's not fair. We talked about the longevity of the player as well. That has to be a factor.
Yeah, but Schmeichel was there for a long period of time.
Yeah.
It's just his peak period was all at one club. That's what I'm saying. Cech is there for a decent period of time, but he was split over two clubs as well.
Yeah. I think that's what perhaps, and at that club as well, he was no way as good at Arsenal than he was at Chelsea. However, he did win quite a few Premier League, FA Cup medals with Arsenal as well. That perhaps weighs it for.
Seems to be the only thing they won, isn't it? My God, I'm not sure we're going to come to an agreement on this one. We might actually have to. I think the best thing we can do in this situation is let the fans decide. Put it to the comments. If you guys are all seeing this, we can't make up our minds on the goalie. You pick. I'm going Schmeichel. Sean's going Petr Cech. We'll pick our team according to what you guys say.
And you know what else? I wanted to go back. Before the goalkeeping, we began the goalkeeping debate again. I wanted also to say the reason why I love the idea of Thierry Henry and David Ginola. I just thought about this. David Ginola could switch into it could be a 4-5-1 approach. David Ginola can also become more of a central player. Henry on the wings with Giggs and Shearer the focal point. That's how good of a flexible player Thierry Henry was. We're talking about partnership.
And Ginola, yeah.
Yeah.
And as Giggsy got older, he actually sort of became more of a central midfielder. So
yeah.
Okay.
But Ginola to swap, yeah. Thierry Henry could even go to the left wing as well, because we talked about Gerrard and Lampard being able to work with others. You cannot take away Shearer from the lineup, but at the same time, he didn't work always. He worked all right with Les Ferdinand, but not too great. And even Michael Owen, he just wasn't able to work with the other forward to a great extent.
He was just probably one of the best number 9s, certainly in England. I think it's simple as that, really. Right. So we vaguely come to an 11. An 11/12 at the moment. Let me just quickly. Go on.
Thank you. We have to mention it because there's so many forwards we have actually not even mentioned that we did take into consideration. It has to be mentioned that he wasn't consistent enough. But Didier Drogba, he would have been a big name to have included, but he had a bad start. Then he became good after. Torres, brilliant at Liverpool. He actually destroyed Vidic at one game, but he just had his injury. Was it a hamstring injury as well? And he just never delivered.
Whereas in terms of consistency, Lampard consistently kept getting over 10 goals every season.
Yeah.
That was the mark of consistency. So
yeah.
Right.
Shevchenko, Michu. There's a lot of players.
I know, that's why this was a really, really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
We vaguely almost got there, but we've ruined it right at the start. But yeah, just to give you like a rough outline of the team that we've got Schmeichel or Cech, again, in the comments, guys, in goal. We've got Gary Neville at right back. We've got Ashley Cole at left back. We've got David Ginola at right wing. We've got Vieira and Scholes central midfield. This is a mouthful. We've got Giggsy at left wing, and we've got Shearer and Henry up front. Wow.
And Henry can flexible as well.
Yeah,
If
no. I mean, but we've got our team. So the only thing, this is what everyone's probably been waiting for. The only thing we've got left to do is decide who we would have as our choices of Hall of Fame. Now, I think it's only fair that we have one each. But I don't know about you, but I've picked two just in case. We both picked the same one as our first one. So my first pick was going to be Ryan Giggs. For me, he is, without question, the best Premier League player I've ever seen. He's the definition of longevity. He's a definition of consistency, quality, loads of goals, incredible number of appearances, super professional. Easy decision for me. What about you? Who was going to be your first pick, out of curiosity?
So out of curiosity, we can't use Middlesbrough stars like Robbie Mustoe or Gianluca Festa, or even Viduka, Mendieta. So I would say, first of all, Jamie Redknapp and Ian Walker and Darren Anderson. I'm joking. So it has to be Alan Shearer. I wanted to choose Ryan Giggs as well, but we've got the option of choosing. Yeah. And then I think we already alluded towards it. He couldn't not necessarily work with a striking partner, but the impact he had at Southampton and Blackburn, he was fantastic. He chose the hard route of going to a club he loved rather than going to the club he would have scored arguably a lot more goals. He went for the team of his heart, and he still delivered a great deal. And it's sad he never was able to deliver a trophy for them when it was a world record transfer. Alan Shearer.
I mean, that's what I wrote down. So, can you see it?
Oh, Giggs and Shearer. Yep.
I mean, I just think you've got the greatest goal scorer Premier League's ever seen, and for me, the best player I've ever seen, who's also shown in the definition of longevity and quality over a long period of time. So Giggs and Shearer. Well,
yeah.
The debate was actually who do we pick in our top 11, but we still haven't got a goalie. But who we picked as our Hall of Famers are Giggs and Shearer. Everybody, once again, please leave your comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already. What are your thoughts? Who would you pick as your two players, as your first Hall of Famers in the Premier League? We
Giggs.
are dying to. Yeah, well, we know yours, Giggs and Shearer. We are dying to hear all of your opinions. Yeah, we are dying. Yeah, we can't wait. We're really excited to hear what you guys have all gone for. Please leave them in the comments, and Sean and I are going to be back. With our normal time slots, no doubt. But for now, unless Sean's got anything else to say, I think we're okay.
Uh, so
No?
I wanted to say that the reason why we're talking about other players is because I've heard people talking about we may focus on particular players or particular clubs, but we wanted to actually elaborate that we are looking at the whole range of players as, most importantly, as football fans. We weren't just looking at Man United, and as Taz elaborated beforehand, there were some errors of some clubs that you just cannot neglect. The treble-winning Man United, the invincibles of Arsenal, the demolition force of Chelsea. There were some impacts you just couldn't ignore, but there were times we could. That's why Ginola was able to make it.
Yeah, I mean, I think players like the fact that players like Ginola, Ljungberg, Perez were in there. They were almost kind of. I know Ljungberg and Perez have won the title, of course, as part of the Invincibles, but they were certainly more kind of, God, but we really like watching them. You know, those kind of players. So, but Ginola, he's just so cool. He was an awesome player to watch. But some players just made it impossible for us not to pick them. Shearer and Henry, we had such a long list, but it was in fact the easiest conversation. It was the shortest conversation we had on the position. But
Zola was another.
Zola as well. I mean, don't make it even harder.
He stole the position of Juninho for being the player of the season.
Don't make it any harder than it already is. Right, Sean and I are going to stop right there. It's been
Could we talk about transfer news or leave that for the next day?
No. Today was always going to be about just the Hall of Fame. It's a long enough video as it is, so I think everyone's fed up with us. So yeah. I think Sean and I are gonna
NWO. That was the other selection. Beats the Bella Twins. I understand why the Bella Twins were chosen. They'll probably deserve it, to be honest.
Sure. No, it's okay. It's okay. Calm down.
Okay.
We will stop before Sean starts going off on one again. So it's goodbye from us. We'll see you. See you when we see you. And please leave your comments. We are really looking forward to hearing your team.
Guys, if you want to join the Skype, contact us and join, and then we can have more conversations. This is about people communicating to make the most make everyone more happy during this period where people are meant to isolate. So feel free to join in, contact either of us. Be happy to discuss, because we're just regular guys like you watching this, and just join in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we really want to encourage people to join in on our call, even if it's for 5 minutes or so. Come join in on the call, voice your opinion, or even have a question for us. By all means, please join in, ask it. We'd love to have you part of the conversation. But yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Take it easy.